I've heard of Whippets, a drug abused sometimes using balloons and whipped cream containers. But now some people say the gas is far easier to get, and one doctor believes that access could be causing a crisis.
As Rob Krieger reports, a local father says the gas put his daughter in the hospital, and he believes some companies could be using loopholes while supplying a high.
Bright colors, bubbly logos, packing a punch.
It hits like crack cocaine hits.
Boasting video game designs with on-demand gratification.
It's instant, it's right there, and it's gone.
With candy-like flavors.
You continuously want that high.
Blueberry mango.
You snap back really, really quick.
Vanilla cupcake, watermelon lemonade.
You just want another one.
Within reach.
You can go get them right down the street.
On shelves at corner stores and smoke shops.
You're spending all your money.
Sometimes offered with a complimentary mouthpiece.
You don't even have to have cash. You can use a credit card.
Users say it brings up a brief but fleeting euphoria.
Just wasting it away, and it's just gone as fast as you can spend it.
In a breath, it's over.
Most people know it as laughing gas.
Chemically known as nitrous oxide, health educator Dr. Eric Griggs says medical professionals have used the gas safely in clinical settings for more than 250 years.
The unfortunate thing is, for the exact number of centuries that it's been used, it's also been abused.
Greg Combo sees that firsthand.
This stuff has taken over my daughter and everything that she ever knew.
He believes his daughter started abusing nitrous oxide when she was 18 years old.
She only did a little bit at a time, maybe parties and stuff like that, and it grew to be a very big problem, a genuine addiction.
It's because people get a euphoric high. That's why they do it. It may work on opiate receptors the way that that ketamine does.
Dr. Amir Gharikani, an associate professor in the Department of Psychiatry at Yale University, says frequent nitrous oxide users risk potentially fatal or life-altering consequences.
There have been many cases in emergency rooms and hospitals of people presenting with nerve damage, with blood diseases, with psychosis, mania, other psychiatric presentations.
Dr. Griggs says inhaling nitrous can deplete the body of B12. There
can be all kind of nervous damage, cerebral damage, cardiovascular implications, long-term implications.
People look like they've had spinal cord injuries. It can start as simple as something called neuropathy in their like tingling sensations in their extremities, their arms and legs, and to having problems with muscle pains and nerve pains in their legs, and difficulty walking, to the point where people sometimes become bedbound.
Symptoms Combo says he's seen right in his front yard when a friend of his daughter's hopped out of his truck with a nitrous tank in hand and crashed headfirst into his family's mailbox. A nightmare he's watching his daughter live through right now.
She is so addicted to this stuff that she just totally avoids her family and all of her friends now. It's ridiculous. When we do see her, she's shaking. She can't even eat a piece of pizza without it almost falling out of her mouth. She's doing really bad. She's been in rehab 3 times.
In just 3 weeks after his daughter moved out, Combo says he removed a horde of empty tanks from her new apartment, each one a tally of the toll on his daughter's life.
We calculated this is $1,800 worth of product right here in a 3-week time that she's moved out and been living in an apartment with a roommate.
You can easily spend, a couple $1,000. Yeah, a month. Yeah, easily.
This man, who's currently battling an addiction to nitrous, agreed to speak candidly with us about the gas anonymously.
Some days I can spend $300 on it. I know users that'll spend $1,000 a day.
He says he's used nitrous oxide recreationally for more than a decade, but he says it's only recently that his abuse of the gas became a problem when nitrous tanks like these showed up in New Orleans neighborhood shops.
So found out about these, it was kind of easy access, grab a couple of them, and then it just became more of a thing and a pretty constant thing.
Dr. Gharikani believes increased access to nitrous oxide, like these larger format cylinders, could contribute to more frequent use.
The biggest impediment to people using in the old days was the access to cartridges and how expensive it was. But if people have access to tanks now,
You don't feel like you're doing something wrong. You know, you're buying it at the store. You know, so you don't have that kind of shame if you're buying other drugs.
Once addicted to crack cocaine, he says because you can buy this vice over the counter, his addiction to nitrous is far worse.
Because not anyone can just walk into a crack house at any time. It's rough. It's a hard drug, even though it's not supposed to be.
However, nitrous oxide is considered harmful enough that in clinical settings, the regulations to administer it start long before the mask goes on.
14 hours of didactic or academic learning plus 6 hours of actual doing cases to get yourself a personal nitrous permit.
Dr. Greg Phillips has practiced dentistry in Lutcher for 43 years.
I would say 20 to 30% of my patients require nitrous or would like to have nitrous for their dental work. Sometimes even for their cleanings. It kind of takes the edge off and makes you a little bit calmer in the dental chair. You know, dental anxiety unfortunately runs rampant.
He says dental offices can't use nitrous oxide or dispense it in any way without having a personal permit issued by the Louisiana State Board of Dentistry.
We have to document who uses and how long, okay? So it is very highly regulated for us.
But when it comes to buying it for a different use, there's no permit. In fact, while Louisiana law spells out it's illegal to inhale, ingest, or possess nitrous oxide, it provides 3 exceptions: when used by a licensed medical or dental practitioner, as part of a manufacturing process or industrial operation, and if the nitrous oxide is intended to be used as a propellant in food preparation, like when making whipped cream.
I mean, that's just it's a way to bypass the law.
This stuff is all made for kids to inhale.
Experts fear that puts a new generation on a potentially deadly path.
even if infrequent use occurs, the risks associated with that infrequent use because of the sheer amount that people are using.
In 2016, Dr. Garicani co-authored a review in the American Journal on Addictions, finding only about 100 case reports on deaths linked to nitrous oxide.
Since then, there have been hundreds of other cases added to the literature. This is like booming. The level of awareness about this has gone up, but so has the frequency of use, I imagine. So I think this is approaching a crisis at this juncture, and I think there has to be measures taken to regulate the access to the gas.
While nearly every tank we saw has a warning against inhaling the gas somewhere on the tank, addicts say that's just a thread through a loophole in the law.
I don't really know what you could even do with these other than suck them down.
It's incredibly dangerous, and yes, they should regulate it, and I think it should be done on a federal level.
Campbell is committed to encouraging lawmakers to do just that. First, by highlighting his family's struggles.
I don't know what I'm going to do. That's why I'm relying on the news, and I'm relying on the state or Jefferson Parish or anybody to take this junk off the street.
Campbell feels once people understand the real threat of nitrous, regulations may help save someone else's daughter in the future. But without any promise for a change in law, he feels it allows businesses to keep supplying a high.
I worry about her, every minute of the day. I feel like I'm going to lose her every day. I want my daughter to grow up and live a good life and have a family, but she's running herself in the ground. And there's nothing I can do about it.
That was Rob Krieger reporting. Campbell says since our interview, his daughter was hospitalized because of her nitrous oxide abuse. He says she's currently paralyzed from the waist down, but says she's eager to begin. Nitrous oxide abuse is becoming more recognized in medical communities as the availability of the dangerous product, sometimes used to make whipped cream, has exploded.
And one local woman says that the easy access created an addiction and landed her in the hospital. As Rob Krieger reports, she says companies manufacturing nitrous oxide are supplying a high.
We found her in her apartment, not having any feeling from her waist down.
She couldn't lift her legs off the bed.
She couldn't walk.
If you move her foot up and down, she couldn't tell which direction you were moving it.
Seeing her carted off in an ambulance was her father's worst nightmare.
Not everyone sees total resolution of symptoms.
We didn't even know if she was ever going to walk again.
I'm here in the hospital because I am paralyzed.
Jenna Campbell is 24 years old.
I can't walk because I was doing whippets, which is nitrous oxide.
She says her abuse of nitrous started about 5 years ago.
I really liked it from the first one.
At 19, Campbell says her use was infrequent, and the gas came from cartridges like these.
I had no clue how unsafe it was.
But she claims she never really felt side effects until large tanks of nitrous oxide appeared at gas stations and smoke shops in Jefferson Parish about a year ago.
They started making the tanks, which is more intense, so it's more direct, and you get more nitrous. So I think that's whenever things changed. It progressively got worse for me.
The beginning of October, she started using it daily.
Dr. Archie Melcher is a general neurologist at East Jefferson General Hospital, part of a team of medical providers treating Campbell after she was hospitalized because of her nitrous oxide abuse.
The effects of nitrous oxide are they're rapid in onset. You feel this euphoria. It doesn't last long, so they seek out another episode of euphoria.
Melcher calls incessant use like Campbell's an addiction.
It's heavily addictive. I mean, I was addicted to it. I couldn't stop doing it.
Campbell says her heavy use came at a heavy cost each time she walked into a shop to buy nitrous.
I spent so much money. Each canister was about $50, and I was doing like 6 to 16 a day.
Hundreds of dollars daily, fueling a habit that quickly robbed her of nearly every minute.
I was just doing it back to back every 30 seconds or so, the entire day. I wouldn't even get up out of the bed.
Melcher says the addiction rapidly attacked her nervous system, inactivating an essential vitamin, B12.
Your body does not produce vitamin B12. You have to obtain it from your diet, meat, fish, dairy, and eggs.
Dr. Melcher says a young, healthy person with a diet rich in B12 keeps the vitamin stored in their liver.
In amounts that will last on the order of years. So even if you would stop taking in vitamin B12, it would take years to deplete the vitamin B12 supply.
He says that all changes with frequent nitrous oxide use, as the gas inactivates the essential nutrient, depleting a supply that could last for years in just a fraction of the time.
That can happen over hours or just a couple days, especially if you're abusing nitrous oxide.
The body needs B12 to nourish the nervous system, Melcher says, nutrients for the brain, peripheral nerves, and the spinal cord. A deficiency can create permanent damage.
You can develop a dementia, memory disorder. It can cause behavioral changes. In the spinal cord, you can see weakness and also imbalance because the brain doesn't know where the legs are in space because of this injury.
I would be like running into walls and stuff. I couldn't walk. I had pins and needles in my legs. It got really scary.
Until November 6th, when her father, Greg Campbell, found her in her apartment, bedbound, facing the devastating consequences of nitrous abuse.
We rescued her out of there finally, and she came here to East Jefferson Hospital where she's getting the best care possible.
For nearly 8 days, Campbell was in the hospital, unable to move her legs with blisters on her tongue after constantly inhaling the pressurized gas from tanks just like these.
I've frostbited my mouth before. It hurts to eat. It stays on your mouth for like a couple weeks, and it scabs over.
Since November 13th, she's been in rehab at the hospital, recovering from the acute injuries like the blisters, but still more than 2 weeks since the last time she used nitrous, she's unable to walk.
We're seeing some improvement. Hopefully that'll continue, and hopefully the symptoms and signs will resolve. But it can take a year or two for that to occur.
For now, she's rehabilitating at East Jefferson's Independence Lane, a full-fledged recovery facility on the 8th floor of the hospital, offering real-life recovery scenarios to patients just like Jenna.
They have me in the parallel bars, standing up and taking some steps. They've been working me hard, but I'm excited because I want to walk again. It feels really heavy, yeah.
Patients are trained in activities of daily living, such as dressing, bathing, transferring in and out of a bed before they go home to live, hopefully independently.
Still, seeing his daughter in a wheelchair is a painful reminder for Greg Campbell of the toll nitrous oxide has played on his family's lives.
My daughter can't walk. It's about a life and death situation.
He says his daughter is finally fighting back against her nitrous dependency, finding purpose in recovery and courage through speaking about the addiction.
We're coming forward to help anybody else that might have a daughter struggling or a son struggling with addiction and gets a hold of one of these things.
Talk to your kids, talk to your family, explain what it is to them and the risks.
Risks she feels every day now, practicing movement without falling or a few assisted steps. Still with little feeling in her legs, all because of an addiction she says was aided by easy access.
It's made to abuse. It's crazy that you can go to a gas station and buy this stuff, especially because it did so much damage to my body.
She thinks the companies that are manufacturing these things know how much damage they can cause, and while there are warning labels on the tanks, she claims those companies are disingenuous when it comes to the risks or the intention to use this for whipped cream, arguing the marketing of the products makes it clear they intend to supply a high.
I think they know that people are abusing them and they are making a lot of money off of it.
A fortune, Greg Comble says, nearly killed his little girl.
They're definitely selling it for people to inhale. This has got nothing to do with food making. They're making millions of dollars on ruining everybody's lives.
And that was Rob Krieger reporting. Comble says local lawmakers are already beginning the process to change laws statewide next legislative session. She says she doesn't think there should be any exceptions. And once the gas off shelves in Louisiana, and as far as her recovery goes, she could be released from the hospital before Christmas. And she says she's hopeful she'll stay away from nitrous as she learns to walk again.
A powerful story.
A very powerful story and very informative.
Yeah.
Is growing simply because manufacturers are becoming more bold, selling larger formats of the gas and stocking it in stores across our communities.
As Rob Krieger reports, she fears the ease of access will snare even more people in the potentially deadly trap that she just barely escaped.
I thought that it made me better in some ways. As it was destroying me, it completely dissociates you. Like, you feel like you're floating, you feel so euphoric from it. And one's never enough, ever. It's hippie crack for a reason. It's crack. You hit it, you gotta hit another one. And it doesn't stop.
Nitrous oxide had this Gulf Coast resident in its grips for nearly half her life.
I started when I was 18, but it didn't start getting so bad with my addiction with it till it became so readily available, and these people that are distributing it know they're getting high with it.
We're disguising her identity for her safety. She fears retribution from some of the people she says sell the stuff on the Gulf Coast.
I was involved with distributing it and to make a delivery. I mean, and I feel terrible about that. But not anymore. I'll never do that again.
In January of this year, she left nitrous behind and since has urged others to drop the drug, but she says the availability and the large tanks of gas have made escaping nitrous for some a losing battle.
The big tanks have been the game changer and how readily, since 2019 on the coast, that's when it started getting really bad because they're available everywhere.
Those tanks, often smattered with colorful imagery enticing potential addicts, are sold legally as chargers for whipped cream in vape shops, convenience stores, and gas stations in Louisiana and Mississippi.
That's disgusting because that is certainly marketed toward a minor or a younger resident.
Senator Joe Addabbo, a lawmaker in the New York State Senate, recently penned a law making it harder for kids to get their hands on this stuff. He says it's clear the companies that make these nitrous oxide tanks are taking advantage of addicts and never intend to sell the stuff for whipped cream.
They know exactly what they're doing. And they're not marketing toward, 16-year-old bakers. No, they're using it for the other use for the nitrous oxide, the illegal use. And that's why their neon colors and their fancy lettering and the images, they know exactly what they're doing.
Across the country, laws governing nitrous sales are fairly similar to those here in Louisiana. But 2 years ago, New York passed a law banning anyone under 21 from buying nitrous oxide.
This was so prevalent in our communities. They were found on street corners and dark alleys, and you'd find 50 of these canisters just sitting there. that was problematic and troublesome.
I used to be one of those people. I really hate it because people just want to suck, and you want to suck your life away for what?
She says people using nitrous get trapped, not just by the drug, but by the ease of access to the gas.
It's the vape shops and the convenience stores, the places that are making it so readily available, especially in the big tanks, because that was like, I mean, that's new. Now it's everywhere, every vape shop, and you notice they're around every corner.
They let you buy as many as you want.
Jenna Campbell can't walk after her constant use of nitrous oxide landed her in the hospital, unable to feel her legs.
I would do a tank, and I would go back to the place and buy another one, and then I would do it, and I would go back over and over all day.
Dr. Archie Melcher, a neurologist who treated Campbell at East Jefferson General Hospital, explains constant use of nitrous oxide depletes the body of B12, a vital nutrient for the nervous system.
The brain, spinal cord, and the peripheral nerves in your arms and legs. Without vitamin B12, these cells suffer injury, and it may be irreversible.
The neuropathy, the myelopathy, the spinal cord degeneration, even if people use it frequently, they can still have those side effects.
Dr. Amir Gharkhani, an associate professor in the Department of Psychiatry at Yale University, who co-authored a review in the American Journal on Addiction surrounding nitrous abuse, says there's evidence the gas creates dependency.
It's the repeated use causes a euphoric high, and it might be due to the fact that it works on opiate receptors mildly, that has some addiction potential.
He worries recently that addiction potential has increased because of the abundant supply of large nitrous tanks.
I think that the boom in frequency has to be connected with the increased access to the gas.
And I think they know that people are abusing them. They don't care. They just want to make money.
I bought out a vape store out of them and spent $1,300. That took the whole store out. I'm talking like every day.
She estimates in her 15 years using nitrous, she easily spent at least $150,000 on it alone. And at one point, even tried to sell it.
I was involved in a delivery system with the LLC, distributing and delivering it. But it didn't work out so well because I was too busy and others just, sucking the supply.
She says because of weak regulations surrounding nitrous, dealers can sell and even deliver the gas as long as it's used for culinary purposes, like making whipped cream.
There's no way you can even distribute whipped cream out of it. Come on now, this is a big joke. Everybody knows what's up. I'm calling it out because, like I said, it's just out of hand.
Come on, man. There's not a chef worth their salt that is going to tell you to use an artificially flavored gas to get a flavor in your food.
Ray Trosclair has been working in restaurants for more than 3 decades. He knows his way around a dessert and says even if he wanted to use nitrous oxide to make whipped cream, tanks this size are excessive.
Who would need this ever? And I'm going to tell you, from a chef's point of view, honestly, there is no way I would use a flavored gas ever. If there's going to be a flavor in it, it's going to be real. Like if we make whipped cream with strawberries, we're going to have strawberries in the whipped cream. We're not going to use a flavored gas. I've never met any chef that would use that.
A quick comparison to a can of whipped cream you might have in your fridge shows a 13-ounce bottle has about 74 servings of whipped cream per container. Now, a can like this typically takes about 6.5 grams of nitrous oxide to make. Compare that to this tank with 2,000 grams of nitrous oxide. If you portion things out similarly, you can make approximately 22,792 servings of whipped cream with that strawberry watermelon nitrous alone.
I can't see how you would ever need that at a corner store or at a gas station or even at a store that anybody could put their hands on easily.
Those tanks have no place being sold, to the general public. They belong in dentists' offices and doctors' offices and hospitals. There should be regulation done on a state level, federal level.
This former addict agrees.
You're talking to someone who's had a 15-year addiction. It's very obvious what's going on here. Let's not downplay it. It is what it is, and it is a problem.
We have an issue nationally. Nitrous oxide, again, accessible, cheap, it's available, it's easy to use, and I think it should have national attention.
Still, she fears until that happens, more people will fall victim to nitrous addiction. And she says manufacturers and retailers profit from easy access.
It's a serious problem. It's going to continue to be a serious problem if somebody doesn't put their foot down and do something about it.
That was Rob Krieger reporting. Jenna Comble's family tells us last week she was allowed to go home. However, she's still working to regain feeling in her feet. And more than a month after she was admitted to the hospital, she still cannot walk because of her nitrous abuse.
We've detailed the dangerous and sometimes fatal consequences linked to nitrous oxide abuse, a gas that's illegal to buy and sell in Louisiana, often at vape and smoke shops, despite its intended use to make whipped cream.
Yeah, we travel to St. Louis, where one family is placing the blame directly on companies and retailers that make and sell the gas. Rob Krieger explains why they're warning other parents of those supplying a high after Whippets forced them to pay the highest cost.
I'm in heaven. Oh my goodness. I want to feed you. Look, take it.
You kind of know what to expect, but you don't. You have your child laying there lifeless, hooked up to a bunch of machines.
She was my best friend. I lost my mom when I was 19. And then a few months later, I found out I was pregnant with her, and she saved my life.
Marissa was the best of us.
She was just always so goofy and happy. And, you know, and some days I just feel lost without her.
Marissa Polite was the glue of her family.
Very easy and outgoing all the time, always in a good mood, always happy.
She had a very infectious laugh. When she was in the room, you knew by that laugh.
Her family says she was a bright student, played saxophone in the band, and eventually entered the medical field, working as a radiology tech at Total Access Urgent Care in Baldwin, Missouri, a suburb of St. Louis.
The last few years with that job, she was a workaholic.
But Karen Chaplin, Marissa's mother, could always count on an evening chat with her daughter to stay connected.
It was raining so bad that night.
October 18th, 2020.
She was supposed to call me whenever she got off work, and that's not the phone call that I got.
As Marissa walked out of work just steps away from the front door, Trenton Geiger was driving his parents' Honda Pilot nearby. Only a few minutes earlier, he was here, the Coughing Cardinal, a smoke and vape shop in the St. Louis suburbs. It's where Geiger bought 24 cartridges of nitrous oxide, then got behind the wheel and started inhaling. Geiger drove northbound on Clarkson Road. As he approached the intersection, he inhaled a Whippet and passed out behind the wheel. His vehicle began to veer across a hard concrete median, 2 lanes of traffic, another curb, through a light pole, before slamming into Marissa Polite.
You're not in trouble with us at all, man. We just need to make sure you're okay physically, okay? Try to take a deep breath. Definitely.
What's your name? Trent.
Okay.
Trent, who's the president of the United States? Trump. Okay. What year is it? 2020.
In the moments after the crash, Geiger received medical treatment inside the same place where Marissa had cared for so many others. Just feet away outside, her glasses lay in the dirt, her shoes thrown yards away from the point of impact, a twisted nightmare of mangled metal, shattered glass, and blood left by the violent collision caused by nitrous oxide.
Are you able to tell me how she is?
She's in critical condition.
As the weight of the reality of his decision sank in, Marissa's family scrambled into the dreary night to Mercy Hospital, the closest trauma center to the crash.
It took me a little bit longer than what it should have taken me to get there. You know, and then they told me that she wasn't going to make it.
Rushing to her bedside, Marissa's parents only had minutes with their daughter before she drew her final breath.
It's hard to see somebody in that condition and to know everything that had happened.
She shouldn't have been there.
Where'd you get off me now? Okay, now hang on a second.
As Karen soaked in the remaining moments with her child, the evidence of the crash was impossible to ignore.
She initially just started running her fingers through her hair, and then there was a piece of glass and another piece of glass.
Jason Polite, Marissa's father, could only watch as the shards stacked up and the details of the violent crash became clearer.
He put her back into the lobby through the panes of glass and metal. She had probably a, I don't know, pile of glass by the time, you know, everything was starting to shut down.
Gripped with grief, Marissa's family suffered yet another blow as her final wish was shattered in the collision.
At 4 o'clock that morning, I got another phone call letting me know that they couldn't donate any of her organs. He took that from her, too.
Are you with him? All right, don't let him leave. There's a witness that saw him throw some whippet bottles, like air duster, out of the car on that after he
Geiger later admitted he ditched the nitrous after the crash, attempting to hide the fact he was inhaling whippets while driving. Police documented that evidence, tossed into the woods nearby green Whippet brand nitrous oxide chargers, but only found about half of the 24 cartridges he bought at this vape shop a few minutes before the crash.
How is it legal to sell this stuff at head shops?
Attorney Johnny Simon with the St. Louis-based Simon Law Firm represented Karen and Jason in a civil trial against the head shop that sold the nitrous, Geiger, and United Brands, the company manufacturing and selling nitrous oxide under various labels, including Whippet brand, across the country.
It's kind of a massive commercial operation. You have 10 or 11 major players, distributors, who have kind of taken advantage of the lack of enforcement at really any level.
Simon proved to a jury United Brands had a conscious disregard for the safety of its customers, targeting retailers like Coughing Cardinal with massive quantities of nitrous.
You look at the actual numbers and you see the frequency of sales every month. Another 24,000 packages, another 24,000 packages, up to the point where you've sold enough nitrous oxide to cover your community 7 foot deep in homemade whipped cream. What is going on?
Marissa's parents say it's clear United Brands and the companies selling nitrous oxide in smoke shops have one priority.
It's all about the money. They don't care about people.
They were absolutely putting profit above people. And they still are today.
But I do know you can't get the balloons that you need for this at Walmart.
Simon says nitrous manufacturers still target smoke shops across the country and in the New Orleans area in overwhelming numbers, making hundreds of millions of dollars a year, while nitrous addicts enjoy easy access to the gas, putting innocent lives like Marissa's at risk.
Marissa's life was taken that night. She will never be married. She will never have a child. She will never be able to be an aunt to her niece and nephews.
After reviewing internal emails from United Brands, sales records, and undercover video from inside Coughing Cardinal during a case heard last year at the St. Louis County District Court, a jury found United Brands and Coughing Cardinal were liable in Marissa's death, awarding her family a staggering verdict of $745 million.
We weren't here for the money. We were one of the first people to take this to a full trial. And, you know, that, I think, did a lot of justice for Marissa.
Justice is why they're determined to force change within the industry and nitrous companies like United Brands, beginning with a 9-figure jury award. Still paltry next to the life of a child.
It's not about the money. I would give my last breath for her to be here.
Trenton Geiger pleaded guilty to second-degree involuntary manslaughter. He's currently serving a 2-year sentence in a Missouri prison. Coughing Cardinal claims it stopped selling nitrous after Marissa's death during our last visit last month. The shop did not have any for sale. However, nitrous is still on shelves across the country, including here in Louisiana, including United Brands Whip-It cartridges.
And in the days before this verdict, United Brands filed for bankruptcy. It has not filed an appeal, though earlier this month it filed a motion for a new trial. Karen and Jason have set up a retention fund at Marissa's school in St. Louis to help other students like her. They say they hope to make it a full scholarship in the future.
Tulane University calls the abuse of nitrous oxide a growing and disturbing national problem after thousands of Whip-It chargers were littered across lawns around the university following Mardi Gras. We began detailing the growing problem connected to nitrous oxide or Whip-Its last fall. And since then, we've seen more cases.
Earlier this week, we introduced you to a family from Missouri awarded $750 million by a jury last fall after their daughter was killed by a man driving while inhaling nitrous oxide.
Rob Krieger traveled to St. Louis to meet the family, who says a company selling nitrous here and across the country is supplying a high.
Marissa Polite was just a few steps away from work when Trenton Geiger slammed into her with his parents' SUV.
Did you get lost, honey?
Knocking the young radiology technician out of her shoes, sending her body through the glass and metal door frame back into the lobby of Total Access Urgent Care, where she stood only moments earlier.
I knew she was going to call me. And it was her work let me know that there was an accident and she was not responsive and I needed to get to the hospital right away.
Within hours, Karen Chaplin's daughter was gone. The man who went to prison for killing her walked away from the violent crash, leaving a trail of nitrous oxide cartridges behind him.
We had never heard of nitrous oxide before. We didn't know what Whip-Its were.
Jason Polite, Melissa's father, was floored to find out the hallucinogenic inhalant that caused Geiger to pass out behind the wheel moments before killing his daughter is sold right over the counter.
But then to find out that it's so easily accessible. You can go into a smoke shop or a head shop and buy this stuff. And buy as much as you want.
These kids are able to get this stuff on every corner.
They're selling as many as they can, and they don't care what people are doing with it.
Attorney Johnny Simon represented Karen and Jason in a civil trial last fall in St. Louis County Court that shouldered the blame for Marissa's death primarily on United Brands, the company that manufactures and sells Whip-It brand nitrous oxide across the country, claiming they clearly knew their nitrous would fall into the hands of people searching for a high.
Selling nitrous oxide as an inhalant is illegal under federal law.
Yet it's in smoke shops, whose primary business is to sell things that are meant for inhaling.
Many state laws, including here in Louisiana, allow businesses to sell nitrous oxide in most cases without limits, as long as it's intended for use as a food propellant in preparations like whipped cream.
One cartridge makes 16 ounces of whipped cream, the equivalent of 2 tubs of Cool Whip. So essentially you're selling this kid 48 tubs of Cool Whip. Do you think he's going to be going and using it for whipped cream?
Everybody's worried about making a little bit of money.
Simon introduced internal emails into evidence during the trial showing United Brands was aware it was selling to smoke shops that were eager to look the other way to inflate profit.
There is no better evidence than their own emails showing that they know it's being used a certain way and proceeding to continue with those sales.
In an email correspondence between United Brands account executive Nick Sweden and a retailer, the retailer writes, "I'm pumped about this. We think we can make a lot of money selling your products, which means you will make a lot of money too. I also wanted to get pricing for your nitrous as well. Given our customer base, I'm sure we could move a F-ton of those as well. So please send us some pricing numbers on that also." 10 minutes later, Sweden writes back, attaching the pricing for United Brands nitrous, and then this disclaimer: please ensure that both butane and cream chargers are used properly and legally. The next day, the retailer writes back, "Thanks for the pricing, Nick. I'll run everything by the owner. And yeah, man, we know the deal. We put a disclaimer on all our hydroponic equipment in our store. This product is not intended for any illicit purposes. Not that anybody is
growing tomatoes with the stuff, right? We all know we have to cover our asses. And it's like, if you're trying to prove there is no more explicit evidence, I mean, should that should that shop be supplied with hundreds of thousands of nitrous oxide chargers? I mean, that's really the question.
But Simon argues United Brands targeted retailers just like this, presenting taped deposition from a former employee who explained 75% of United Brands sales nationwide were to obvious head shops and smoke shops.
I mean, that tells me that they have a business and it surely isn't gourmet whipped cream.
In the suit, Simon points out the staggering differences in quantities of nitrous oxide sold by United Brands, including to a coffee company in St. Louis, a business with a practical purpose for whipped cream. In 7 years, the coffee company purchased 51,724 nitrous oxide chargers. In those same 7 years, United Brands sold a head shop 1.3 million chargers. In 2 years, another coffee shop bought 4,000 chargers. In just 12 months, the Coffin Cardinal bought 40,000.
Look at their sales numbers over a period of time, and you can say this shop here in Kansas City or here in St. Louis sold enough nitrous oxide chargers for the streets of St. Louis to be paved in 3 feet of whipped cream.
We supply to retail stores for the purpose of using it as a food additive to make whipped cream and drinks and so forth, not for any illicit use.
Jurors heard United Brands' responses to Simon's arguments through video deposition of CEO Nasir Zaria. It was recorded last summer for Marissa Polit's wrongful death case against the company, nearly 3 years after she was killed. And yet Simon says some of the answers from the CEO left him stunned.
Your counsel receives this information more than a year prior to Marissa Polit's death.
Prior to who?
Do you know who Marissa Polit is?
No, sir.
Mr. Zaharia, you don't know who Marissa Polit is?
No, I don't.
No one's ever told you that?
No.
You know, they can hide behind warnings. They can, skirt laws and regulations, but they cannot look 12 people in the face and tell them that they have no idea what's going on.
That's exactly why Karen and Jason wanted to bring this case to court, to find justice for their daughter, not a quick payday.
Money was never the issue. Bringing these companies to light, bringing the drug out into the public.
We need it out of the head shops. We need nitrous oxide to be regulated. Have regulations on it. Don't just hand it out like it's candy.
It's an obvious opportunity for us to be a leader for others.
Kevin Roach, an alderman in Baldwin, Missouri, where Marissa was killed, happened to be driving by the scene minutes after Geiger smashed Marissa through the building. He believes if nitrous was banned from vape shops, Marissa might still be alive.
It's really pathetic that our system had to rely on someone's death in order to bring this into focus.
We need to get bills passed and get laws passed to keep this stuff out of smoke shops, out of retail shops, period.
Roach says whippets are still available in his hometown, but he's planning an ordinance to prohibit nitrous oxide sales in vape shops.
The point is that people are dying. You have to do whatever you can do.
What we have to ask ourselves as a community, whether it's in New Orleans, whether it's in St. Louis or California or Alaska, is how long are we going to let that happen?
Simon knows while legislation can create lasting change, a 9-figure jury verdict is an immediate blow to the nitrous industry, providing a roadmap for others addicted, hurt, or even killed by their product to hold the companies supplying a high accountable.
It sends a message loud and clear to United Brands and its competitors that if you want to choose to do this, there's going to be a consequence.
Consequences that pale in comparison to the one Jason and Karen now face for the rest of their lives.
Now I have to figure out how I live my life moving forward without her.
The jury's decision split the blame for Polit's death, but not equally, handing down an award of $700 million in punitive damages against United Brands and $25 million in damages against the vape shop that sold the nitrous, the Coffin Cardinal. The jury did not bring any punitive damages against the driver, Trenton Geiger, though he is currently serving a 2-year sentence in a Missouri prison for second-degree involuntary manslaughter.
Just last week, a judge ruled Geiger will have to pay $1,025,000 in a wrongful death settlement. Earlier this month, United Brands filed a motion for a new trial. Still, attorney Johnny Simon says the groundbreaking jury award provides a roadmap to hold the nitrous oxide industry accountable.
Will consider a bill this week that could ban the sale of nitrous oxide in Louisiana.
The bill comes as a result of our series detailing the risks and ease of access to nitrous. As Rob Krieger explains, one bride-to-be is hoping the legislation can save lives just months after losing the love of her life.
I had everything picked out, my wedding dress, we had everything planned. I was actually going home that day for us to decide where we were going to go on our honeymoon. I called him twice like I do on my way home, and he didn't answer. And I pulled up to our house, and I saw that his car was parked in the middle. I went into her room, and I was just like, you got to be kidding me. I found a book sack full of masks, the tank, the connection to the tank. He was hooked up to nitrous and no oxygen. I thought at first he was joking, and so I called his name, and immediately how his body looked, I knew that there is no return.
Ashley Broha found her fiancé, who we're not identifying, dead, hooked to a nitrous oxide tank like this.
Never in a million years thought I would watch him get rolled out of the house with the coroner's office.
An autopsy by the East Baton Rouge Parish coroner last fall determined he died due to asphyxia because of nitrous oxide poisoning, just months before they were set to be married in January.
And it all went away in a day.
She believes her fiancé bought that nitrous oxide online after finding this box with a shipping label from a company which sells nitrous oxide through this website.
How are these people able just to get online and order these tanks with not having to have any type of validation that you're in the medical field, you're in the restaurant industry?
Nitrous oxide delivery through the site is offered legally under current law. The site calls it a green alternative to whipped cream chargers, offering direct shipping of these industrial-sized nitrous oxide tanks across the country, even to hotels and Airbnbs.
They just ship them to wherever you are. It's just, it blows my mind. This can't be happening.
The website links this safety data sheet, warning of the potential toxicity and suffocation risks linked to inhaling nitrous, including frostbite, central nervous system depression, and unconsciousness. Broha is a dental hygienist required by state law to have certification every 2 years just to administer nitrous oxide on a patient. But after the death of her fiancé, she found people seeking a high have far fewer restrictions than those in the medical field.
If I have to be certified, if I have to get a license, if I have to renew my license for being a dental hygienist every 2 years, then there's no way that kids and adults should be able to get online and just pay $9.99 for shipping fee and get nitrous tanks delivered to wherever they are.
I was incensed. There's a law, but there's a loophole in the law, and that's how they're getting around it.
State Representative Joe Stagney, whose district includes parts of Kenner, filed a bill to close those loopholes.
You brought to light a serious problem. It is a growing, what I would consider, epidemic, and it has flown under the radar.
Stagney says after seeing our series of stories on nitrous oxide abuse detailing the costs of addiction, the ease of access, and the consequences to innocent lives, he authored legislation due for debate this session.
I not only want to ban the sale, I want to go after the manufacturer because they know what they're doing. This is a concerted effort to profit off the health and safety and economic welfare of our state, just so they can make, some money on this.
Co-authored with fellow Kenner lawmaker Debbie Villio, Stagney's bill changes key wording in current law. Right now, nitrous oxide sales in Louisiana are legal as long as the gas is not sold for the purpose of inducing or aiding any other person to inhale or ingest such substance. The new law eliminates that language, Stagney says, effectively making the sale of nitrous tanks like these illegal in Louisiana.
The tanks have made it easier. It just shows what their motive is. It's not to make whipped cream. Go a half block in any direction in the greater New Orleans region and find this stuff. Somebody's out there either selling it or getting the unsuspecting public hooked on this, and then they have a customer for life.
Stagney's bill inflates previous financial penalties for selling nitrous to $2,500 for each violation, or up to a year in prison, or both.
It's disingenuous. It's greed. I mean, they're selling it, and the producer's producing it to make a profit, and it's all at the expense of our citizens, their families.
And it's sad that they're out there making more and more money as people are losing loved ones like myself, my family, and his family.
Broha sees healing beneath that hurt, eager to back the new legislation.
When I found out about this bill, it was like he was talking to me and every other family member around the world that has lost someone or is struggling with this addiction.
Confident stories like Broha's will convince his fellow lawmakers in Baton Rouge to back the bill. Stagney is ready to make significant change to the way nitrous oxide is treated in the state. Change Broha thinks will save lives.
We've had enough. We know enough people that have been hurt and injured by this. And you can't exploit that loophole for profit at the expense of hurting our citizens.
I don't want someone else to have to go through my pain, his family's pain, my family pain, our friends. It's not a good feeling to live with.
That was Rob Krieger reporting. Lawmakers will consider the legislation in the Criminal Justice Committee Thursday, where Broha says she'll speak on behalf of her fiancé, joining others impacted by nitrous abuse to plead. That would ban the sale of nitrous oxide passes unanimously out of the Criminal Justice Committee in Baton Rouge this morning.
It's legislation spurred by our reporting on nitrous abuse and the ease of access to the gas. Rob Krieger explains why families say Louisiana is taking the first steps in the country at stopping retailers and manufacturers from supplying a high.
Bolstered by braces on her legs, Jenna Campbell made her way into the Capitol this morning, slowly. Still recovering from nitrous oxide poisoning that landed her in the hospital last fall for weeks. By her side, her father, Greg Campbell, carried the same neon green nitrous oxide tank he found before she was hospitalized to show lawmakers what's supplied in stores across the state right now.
Most people think of a Whippet as a little CO2 size cartridge that can fit in your pocket. Not anymore. These manufacturers really stepped up their game. Industrial size canisters like that one is on the shelves at gas stations and smoke shops all around Louisiana, and even can be purchased on Amazon, costing about $70 per tank.
Legislators in the Criminal Justice Committee were floored to find out the known inhalant has easy access under state law.
To be quite honest, I had no knowledge of the severity of this product.
That canister there, where is that available at? That's not a...
Gas stations, Amazon.
That size?
And it actually comes with a mouthpiece.
This is something that no one up there knew about and how dangerous it was.
Fighting back tears, Ashley Broha urged lawmakers to pass the legislation authored by Kenner Representatives Joe Stagney and Debbie Villio as a result of our reporting. The proposed bill would restrict the sale of nitrous, closing a loophole in current law Broha says allowed her fiancé to purchase an industrial-sized tank.
On September 25th, 2023, my life changed forever. My fiancé,
My best friend, a son, an uncle, and friend to so many passed away, being able to order a nitrous tank online with just a click of a button.
Just 3 months before her wedding, Ashley lost her fiancé. The East Baton Rouge coroner determined he suffocated because of nitrous oxide poisoning, a tragic consequence impacting families across Louisiana.
It's been hell for 2 years. This is a serious problem.
We need to take a stance in making this product have stricter rules and regulations and penalties for the everyday person.
Lawmakers unanimously passed the legislation out of committee, marking a first step in legislation that would force retailers to pull tanks like these off the shelves. Stagney says it sends a message to the nitrous oxide industry they won't profit from abuse and addiction in Louisiana.
I think we as a body are sending a message to those manufacturers and those retailers that we're not going to have this in our state anymore. Our people don't deserve it, and you're doing it just to make money, and our people and our families are suffering.
For the families of nitrous abuse victims, it's a resolve that shows lawmakers are determined to rein in the unregulated inhalant with legislation that could save lives.
You know, more kids are gonna see people doing it at events, at parades, parties. They're gonna wonder what it is and try it, and they could become as addicted as my daughter did. I'm just glad we're making these changes right now for Louisiana, and hopefully the surrounding states will follow.
Rob Krieger, Fox 8, Local First.
If the law passes, it would make Louisiana the first state in the country to ban nitrous in the retail setting. It's likely to be taken up by the full House next week. It would make Louisiana the first state in the country to ban the retail sale of nitrous oxide. Passes another hurdle without opposition.
It was written after our series on the drug, highlighting the dangers of nitrous oxide abuse. Rob Krieger has details on the proposed law in Baton Rouge.
For the third straight time at the Louisiana Capitol, a bill that will ban the sale of nitrous oxide passes unanimously, clearing the Senate Judiciary Committee Tuesday morning, merely months after its author, Kenner Representative Joe Stagney, learned about the ease of access of nitrous oxide.
I was first brought to this by a series of reports on Fox 8 News about a young lady who had become addicted, and 8 to 10 months after her inhaling nitrous oxide, she is still not able to walk properly.
He's talking about Jenna Campbell, unable to walk for months after abusing nitrous oxide. Stagney says it's stories like hers that are convincing his fellow lawmakers and keeping the industry from contesting the bill.
There have been some opposition to other bills on vaping and stuff like that, but that's how badly they know they're doing what they're doing, is they won't even show their faces to fight this bill. Yet they stock our shelves with something that can kill our citizens.
A picture was sent to me from a local vape shop with all these nitrous oxide canisters in those, and obviously they're not being used for vehicles or for food consumption. It's being used as somebody that's addicted to it, trying to get high.
Tell me, what type of places are this stuff being purchased?
Smoke shops, vape shops, some convenience stores.
Okay.
If you're in New Orleans, I promise you, you can't go 2 blocks without seeing some of this there. And it's not for making whipped cream. They know what it's for.
Wow. So, Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I would like to report House Bill 64 favorably.
Stagney's bill preserves access for legitimate uses, including dentists who already need certification to use nitrous oxide, as well as a few other industries that may need the gas.
I've worked with all the stakeholders I could. We put exemptions in the law, for instance, for automobiles, for true manufacturers of whipping cream, for dentists who use this legitimately and have a permit to do so. Outside of that, we have an all-out ban.
A ban that would make Louisiana the first state in the country to clear the shelves of nitrous oxide in retail spaces while putting the companies supplying a high on notice.
They're taking advantage of them, and it's up to us to impose the fines to make them feel the penalty to try to keep them from doing that, trying to keep them from taking advantage of the people that are looking for that next high. And to be able to sell this in a shop, in a shopping center, is just not right.
Rob Krieger, Fox 8, Local First.
The bill now heads to the Senate floor. If approved there, it will go to the governor's desk. Stagney says he's confident Governor Landry will sign the bill into
A bill that bans the general retail sale of nitrous oxide in Louisiana is on the governor's desk tonight after full support from the state Senate.
Yeah, Rob Krieger has details on the bill that lawmakers say will save lives.
Receiving unanimous bipartisan support, a bill that bans the sale of nitrous oxide here in Louisiana sailed through the Senate and will now land on the governor's desk, making Louisiana the first state in the country to ban the retail sale of nitrous oxide.
Vote your machine, members, vote your machine.
We just passed the strongest nitrous oxide ban in the country.
Secretary, close the machine. 38 yeas and 0 nays, bill's finally passed.
Our legislature has sent a strong message that we're not letting profiteers injure our citizens, cause heartache in our families.
People are dying and getting hurt. What this bill does will close down a loophole unless you're a manufacturer. And
State Senator Patrick Connick carried the bill in the Senate Tuesday afternoon. He says closing a loophole that allows the unlimited sale of nitrous oxide to anyone was easy for lawmakers to get behind.
it's a great bill. The senator saw it, the House saw it.
If signed into law by the governor, Stagney says law enforcement will begin building cases against retailers he says are hurting Louisiana residents.
This is a toxic gas that causes sometimes permanent injuries, even death. And so the unsuspecting public, they don't know that. And they're just people selling that out on the street thinking they're getting some kind of little recreational high. The people doing it, though, they know it is highly addictive and that they have a customer that'll continue to come back until they harm themselves some way.
Stagney hopes the legislation will push the people supplying a high off the streets and out of Louisiana.
All you have to do is, go a couple of blocks in any direction and you're going to find this product on a store shelf or somebody with a balloon, selling it to somebody else.
Hopefully we can save some lives and make people aware that this is a bad item that we gotta prevent from being sold on the streets.
Unanimous bipartisan support for this bill. That's something Stagney tells me he's proud of, and something he says explains exactly why the ban of nitrous oxide is important here in Louisiana. Reporting in Baton Rouge, Rob Krieger, Fox 8.
The festival season, our cameras caught people pushing dangerous drugs in plain sight right in front of hundreds of people. It's an issue first responders say they're aware of.
Yeah, but as Rob Krieger learned, they can't always confiscate evidence from people suspected of supplying a high.
On Frenchman Street, tucked between trash cans to the gates of Jazz Fest. Balloons bartered by the fistful. In plain sight and right in front of our cameras. Outside Jazz Fest Friday, May 3rd on Gentilly Boulevard.
What is that? Helium? Nitrous.
And steps away from popular restaurants near the fairgrounds, our cameras captured multiple nitrous dealers.
3 for 20, bad pictures.
People passing nitrous like party favors, often in exchange for cash.
Hey man, what you got?
Nitrous.
Oh yeah?
Laughing got, yeah.
How much is it?
3 for 20.
3 for 20?
Yeah.
All right.
I got to it.
But that's not legal, right?
I mean, it depends how you look at it.
But legally under Louisiana state law, it's not legal for you to be selling this.
It's not illegal.
It's illegal for you to sell nitrous to inhale, right?
You reported me, man.
New Orleans police say this is illegal. But the manager of one live music venue says it's nothing new.
Sadly, people selling nitrous oxide balloons outside music venues has just become a part of this scene that no one asked for.
Brian Greenberg manages Tipitinas. He says nitrous dealers regularly make sales on the neutral ground and across the street during late night shows, especially during festival season.
It is half a dozen people wandering up and down the street, holding fists full of balloons, standing in the intersection, blocking traffic. Like it's just a terrible look. And it's not just here, it's happening at venues and neighborhoods all over the town, especially during Jazz Fest.
Go to the head shop around the corner and buy one, okay?
It's illegal to inhale it, right?
It's not illegal to do shit, bro.
Is illegal? I thought it was legal the way it was done.
Reggie Ford is a New Orleans artist who posts about the city. During Jazz Fest, he captured this video on the steps of Caesars.
It looked like a zombie land. It looked like a drug house, right in the middle of the city.
These people come from all over the world to enjoy our music, but there's someone outside having a little nitrous party, so they think they'd join that instead of buying a ticket to a show or buying a drink inside the bar. No, I mean, they're just giving it to someone who's, a drug dealer on the street, essentially.
It's a scene Ford says encroaches on the city's economy and culture.
They did this in the most video section of the city. This is right in front of a billion-dollar casino, and no law enforcement intervened in it.
Right now, the NOPD does not have a method for handling nitrous oxide tanks in certain conditions, something Greenberg experienced firsthand on May 2nd at the corner of Napoleon and Chapatoulas when he called police to report a half-dozen dealers outside of Tipitina's.
The people selling balloons, they scattered. They went and hid their tanks and ran off around the corner or wherever else. And one person did stash one tank in a garbage can in the neutral ground. We told the police, hey, they put one over there. You should probably go get that tank. And they went over, they took a look, they pulled it out, and they called the fire department.
The New Orleans Fire Department says when they got the call, it was originally listed as a bomb scare. But once on scene, officers told them they would need help to dispose of a canister of nitrous oxide.
That's happened before. The fire department would just let all the gas out and then take it away for evidence.
But the fire department says the control valve had been removed from the canister and determined it was not an explosive threat or chemical hazard that would require NOFD intervention. The captain dismissed the company from the scene. The NOPD says Central Evidence does not have the capability to store pressurized containers. And the New Orleans Fire Department says confiscated cylinders should not be stored without knocking the valve off.
So the option for the police was just to leave it behind.
Greenberg says the police refused to take the tank of nitrous oxide. In a response, the NOPD says its officers offered to move the tank away from the trash can where it was found on the neutral ground. But responding officers reported Greenberg feared dealers would retaliate against him, so the tank was left inside the garbage can at his request. Greenberg says he doesn't recall police giving him an option to move the tank to another trash can. He says he's furious and thinks police could have done something to prevent more sales.
I was angry, yeah, absolutely. It seemed outrageous, all this trouble to stop this thing from happening. And here we are, you can take it off the street, but I was shocked that they would just leave it behind. They said they would stick around and wait to see if someone came and got it. But after 15 minutes, the police officer drove away. I don't know if he got another call or what happened, but there was just a tank sitting in the neutral ground.
Greenberg says police gave him this document explaining how to obtain a copy of the police report, listed with an item number, an officer name, G. Hayes, and recorded as a complaint. When we attempted to obtain the report of the complaint, the city initially responded no report existed because necessary action was taken.
I mean, I don't think that the necessary action was taken because an hour later, people showed back up with another nitrous tank. So it's not like the problem was solved. It was just kind of discarded.
A problem many say is inflating across the city, targeting tourists and hooking residents.
You saw balloons on the ground. At one point, I saw a guy just standing in a driveway with a big old canister like this, just kind of standing there, and he would just stand, and everybody just looked like as though it was normal.
Dr. Eric Griggs explains the prevalence of nitrous oxide gives potential buyers a false sense of safety, as some peddling balloons claim it's harmless.
The point is, it's been normalized to the point that people think it's something that's benign, and we know that it's not.
The New Orleans Fire Department says it's aware of the rise of nitrous oxide abuse in our community, and the NOPD points out it is illegal for anyone to inhale, possess, or transfer nitrous oxide like this. In fact, police made 4 arrests this month during the last weekend of Jazz Fest. The first arrest on Saturday, May 4th, when police saw a man in possession of a black nylon bag that contained a nitrous oxide tank and hundreds of balloons near Gonzaga and Gentilly, just a day after our cameras captured people on that same corner buying balloons dealers say were filled with nitrous oxide.
What is that?
Then 3 more arrests Sunday night near the corner of Grand Route St. John and Sauvage Street, where police say they arrested 3 people and confiscated these 2 tanks of nitrous oxide. Also just blocks away from this scene 2 nights earlier as people passed balloons of nitrous oxide in the shadows. Griggs says recreational use like this can lead to devastating and long-term impacts.
The blood vessels leave your heart. They get smaller and smaller. You can deoxygenate chronic for over time. This is definitely something that if you do recreationally over a long period of time consistently, you will get the ill effects of it, and we know that. We know that happens.
Despite the risk, it's a dangerous drug found beyond the frat parties on college campuses, on the fairgrounds during Jazz Fest, slung over a shoulder outside of iconic restaurants,
You got a shot you're looking for?
and pushed by the fistful on the storied streets of New Orleans as dealers illegally supplying a high collect cash in plain sight.
I feel like if there was heroin in big inflatable balloons in the middle of the street that people were advertising, they would stop it. If there was crack, they would stop it. If there's a food vendor in the street, they shut that down. But they're not shutting this down.
That was Rob Krieger reporting. The NOPD says right now it's working to find a solution to situations when the valve is removed from a pressurized tank, but again says it does not have a way to confiscate or store that evidence if the valve is removed. The Louisiana legislature recently unanimously passed a law banning the retail sale of nitrous oxide following our series of reports. The bill awaits the governor's signature.
A bill that bans the general retail sale of nitrous oxide is signed into law only months after our reports first identified a loophole in the law.
Rob Krieger was at the Capitol as the governor authorized the law, making Louisiana the first state in the country to ban the retail sale of nitrous oxide.
With a stroke of a pen, Governor Jeff Landry made history as Louisiana becomes the first state to ban the general retail sale of nitrous oxide, mere months after Kenner Representatives Joe Stagney and Debbie Villio pinned the bill closing a loophole in Louisiana law that was identified by our series of reports, supplying a high.
Debbie and I first saw some reports on Fox 8 News, and then separate people approached us both about filing a bill to do something about the nitrous oxide problem that we're having. It's a growing, an emerging epidemic, at least in South Louisiana, and we believe all throughout the state. It is extremely toxic, extremely addictive.
I am so excited. Look at this. It's signed.
We first introduced you to Greg Comble in November as he pleaded for help while he watched his daughter, Jenna, fall deeper into addiction, only hoping lawmakers would take action to prohibit the sale of nitrous oxide in places like smoke shops and convenience stores.
For these manufacturers not be able to supply to every gas station in Louisiana, this is huge. This is huge. I hope they lose $1 million and go out of business tomorrow. I really do. This product was put on the street specifically to poison kids, but we got it done today. We're sending a message with this signature.
This is an absolute public safety bill that we hope further protects kids and so that parents out there are not affected by this. And one way to help them is to make sure that the ability for them to get it is limited.
The bill received unanimous support from both sides of the aisle, something stakeholders say shows the importance of a ban of nitrous oxide.
Not a single opposition, unanimous across the board, bipartisan, just huge. This is huge, and we're the first state. And I hope that this shows other states a path forward for them to do the same.
A family friend of the Combles, Samantha McCann, testified in favor of the legislation after learning Jenna lost her ability to walk as a result of nitrous oxide abuse. Now, months later, Comble's daughter is still struggling with her addiction, recently returning to rehab after relapsing this spring.
This is her 4th time in rehabilitation for the same thing. You can't tell me that this product is non-addictive. I mean, she'll go out of her way to get it any way she can. Hopefully this time, when she gets out, everything will be all right, and she won't be able to get it as easily anymore off the streets and just pulling up at a gas station.
The new legislation takes effect in August when lawmakers expect the state to begin building cases against the manufacturers they say are supplying a high. Rob Krieger, Fox 8, Local First.